When we think of wellness on the group level, one of the major mismatches has been a societal shift since the 1940s and 1950s with respect to social mismatch. This was the topic of my first book, Our Tribal Future, delved into social mismatch on a very, very granular level. And the basic idea here is that you had the invention of the nuclear family in Levittown, USA, from the point where it was right after the World War II, post-World War II, and FDR and a team of sociologists were trying to top-down engineer a way to basically ensure that men don't come together, unionize, drink, and otherwise cause trouble. Because historically, after wars, when you have veterans doing this is usually an issue. Their solution was something along the lines of the invention of the nuclear family. To be clear, there is no such thing, evolutionary biologically speaking, as the nuclear family. The smallest nuclear unit is actually what we call a camp. It is about 20, if you look at hunter-gatherer foragers who I've done research with, I've lived with in East Africa for my research. And there are about 25 to 35 adults in the shared project of reproduction and survival, right? And then they're nested in a group of what we call a band. So about 2 or 3 camps are associated in a band. Think of it like the neighborhood level. And you know your neighbors, maybe Bob from this part of the neighborhood, Mary Susie from that part of the neighborhood, and you kind of keep gene flow going is good. Now beyond that, you have tribes, actual tribes, but basically tribes are when it gets beyond 150. This is Dunbar's number, and it's when you essentially are coding people to cooperate that are strangers. And if you know that this person is emitting the right tribal signals, I will preferentially cooperate with that person versus someone who doesn't. So that's how we evolved. The nuclear family was never actually a thing, because if you plop a nuclear family in Siberia, for example, and ask them to survive, it can't happen. It literally, it just physically can't happen, because you would either, you would extirpate. Some people would die off. If you breed, you're going to breed highly inbred offspring. So it can't happen. But anyway, back to 1950, United States innovated this idea of the nuclear family. If we give every male and residing female pair bond and offspring and dog, right? So like 2.5 kids and a dog. If you give them a house, it will then create this sort of intentionally desocialized, very controllable from the top down, very controllable social landscape. It'll create peace and harmony. Turns out it's the exact opposite though, because what happens is we evolved for a highly social context. We evolved for face-to-face interaction with other humans. So this is leading to the epidemic of loneliness. And this is one of the topics I explore. To your question originally of, is it good to work at home or is it good to work in the office? It depends on what the organization wants. I think if lives are on the line, if you're a public servant, if you are a police officer, if you're a fireman or firewoman, if you are a government official, that requires, you're a servant of your country. That requires face-to-face boots in the ground. If you're a banker or a coder, the mission statement's a little bit different. Maybe the president of this online company that has, 100 coders under them, maybe they do the calculus and they think it's probably better that they have more autonomy and control over their lives so they can be embedded in social networks that are healthy and that prop them up mentally, physically, and spiritually so that they give their best when they're coding for me, right? So it really depends on the organization. What are the organization mission statements and what are the end goals?